All right, so we're going to have a couple edits to the schedule. We're just gonna move a couple things up by about 15 minutes because we just want to make room for all of them. But we're good to go here for the lunch panel, the new retail reality, an interview with icons or sages, or I don't know, however seasoned. I don't know what's the word we want to use, but
seasoned.
We're really seasoned, yeah. We're very excited to have three heavy hitters here for retail, and I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves, but you can see between Ronnie and Chuck, I think they cover about half the Fortune 500, having experience working with Home Depot and JCPenney and Eddie Bauer. So let's start with Becky, and if you wouldn't mind, just a little bit about yourself and the brands that you've worked with.
Okay. I'm Becky Snider. I currently am employed by Mizuno USA. I was hired by Mizuno back in November of 2016 to build their first ever Mizuno Experience Center in the Western Hemisphere at the Battery, which is attached to the new SunTrust Stadium for the Atlanta Braves. So we opened their first store April 14th of last year. On opening day of the Atlanta Braves. It's been an incredible experience for me there. Prior to that, 18 years of retail. I started in 1999. I built a sporting goods store out of my house and grew it to 2 stores in the local community and built it from literally $0 to about $2.5 million in less than 10 years. And I think the reason I was able to do that was I was very relational. I used my experience as a mom of athletes, and I brought that as a core presence in retail, and I was able to engage and relate to other mothers and fathers raising children, and it just grew, and I built a niche in the market. And it was really exciting to watch how you can build an experience within my stores that kept people coming back. And I'm here today.
Awesome. Ronnie?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? If not, is
You're
this
good.
on?
It's on. It's on.
It's on. Okay. My name is Ronnie Kell. I started my career basically running my own business out of my house and have a lot of energy in the creative world. And my first job was the creative director for the National Cheerleader Association. And through that, I went into JCPenney. So that was kind of a start for me where at that company, it was a manufacturer and I could do things from start to finish. So I actually got to develop the product, sell the product, go back, print, shoot, write the copy. So start to finish, turnkey representation. And at JCPenney, they needed somebody to understand the energy needed to help sell Missy. And so from the cheerleading world, I went into that department of Missy at JCPenney and brought energy to their photography, vision, and brand of how it was being shot. From there, they saw that I had an emotional connection to the customer, and they started giving me catalogs that were seasonal. So it was Mother's Day, Father's Day, all the stuff that emotionally connected, which kind of started my career in the direction that it was going. So while I was at JCPenney, I started doing that a lot with their brand, and then a company by the name of Frontgate took me on. And Frontgate, I had never done a lot of home, and so I brought the emotional connection to Frontgate's catalogs, which were all specialty. So there was the Frontgate grill, the outdoor catalog, furniture catalog, Splash, and then my latest launch was the Grandin Road at that time. And so Grandin Road is kind of like the crate and barrel of Frontgate, and so I had to make that connect to the customer. A different customer, but still the same customer, if that makes any sense. It's just that they both shop in the same world, and they want to do college kids' furniture versus their multi-million-dollar home furniture. From there, I went back to JCPenney, and then on to Eddie Bauer. Eddie Bauer, once again, connecting the brand emotionally and doing more of an omni-channel experience with that brand. The one trait I have in most of these brands that I've worked for, after Eddie Bauer, went to Mrs. Fields, then on to Home Depot, and everyone started in their garage, basically, in all of the companies that I've worked for. And to see everything grow into the world that it is now is, I'm a passionate person for that connection to the customer, which is kind of what brings me here. And it's how are we losing that, and how can we get it back, and then how does it work for everybody? So that's about it for me.
Chuck?
I'll talk about ToysRus in just a minute. I'm not going to apologize for anything they've done recently. My name's Chuck Luckenbill. I started my career in department stores. Probably the majority of my career has been in department stores. I started in Windows in Minneapolis and worked my way up in that company. Moved over to Carson Perry Scott out of Milwaukee. They owned a whole bunch of stores in the Midwest at the time. The large flagship stores were in Chicago. Had an opportunity to leave there when they got purchased by Saks Incorporated. Great opportunity for me to start my company again. And shortly after, I guess after a few years in my own company, I joined Kohl's. And I joined Kohl's during their explosive growth period. So we're opening 100 stores a year, and at the same time redesigning departments within the stores. So they're like laying the track down in front of the train as you go down. It was an interesting experience, and it was fun. I look back at it as at the time it was a little bit stressful, but I look back at it as probably one of the best experiences I had, because the traditional department stores were moving very slowly in the way they did things. A couple weeks to open a store, and Kohl's it took 5 days. I mean, so you learn how to do things very quickly, and I think that's an important point for retailers to begin to pay attention to if they're not doing it right now. So time at Kohl's, back with time on my own. I went to OfficeMax for 7 years. They were purchased by Office Depot, and some of us had to stay and some of us had to go, and I left. Actually, it was an interesting experience there, because when I joined, they were transitioning the customer focus from a male-dominated small business customer to a female-dominated small business customer, because most of the startup companies in the country were beginning to be started up by women. With a department store background, you just kind of fall right into the right way to be able to manage that, so that was a lot of fun. In the fall of 2016, I was recruited by ToysRus, and I joined them in in January of 2017. I was there like 4 months, so I'm not taking credit for anything here, especially right now, because 33,000 people are going to lose their jobs, and all the stores are in the process of closing, except for the 200 they say they're going to sell. I don't have any access to grind with them, and what I've been hearing today and what I've been seeing on the internet and what I comment back to when I read about things about ToysRus is they've been dragging $5 billion worth of debt around for a really long time. When I joined the company, I sat with the CEO and we talked about that. And there's limited funds to fix stores. They had a warehouse-style model that in terms of retail never evolved fast enough for the customer. Their customer profile, which whether they knew it or not, is 4 feet and under. Those kids make all the decisions for their parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles to buy. So that customer focus wasn't really happening. So one of the things I was trying to bring to the company in the few months I was there is let's focus on that customer, and let's open a box on every shelf on every shelf that runs along the store at the 4-foot level, so the kids can touch and play. Because what I learned from the store managers when I visited them is that I'd ask them, what's your best seller? And they'd say, well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, bring me to it. And we'd go over there, and there'd be a demonstration table. Well, why is this the best seller? The kids are trying it out, sells out all the boxes on the shelf. I went back to the corporate offices, and I'm talking about that, and the merchants are telling me, well, you know, there's a huge margin implication when you open product. You know, we got dealers, we got deals with vendors. And it's like, what's the margin implication if you sell all the product on the shelf? I mean, like, maybe I'm not really good at math, but to me, that if it's all gone, you just won. So those were interesting times, and I feel bad for all of the things that are happening to that company, because I really believed They had the opportunity to create a toy box that was outside of everyone else's realm of possibilities, Target, Amazon, and everyone else. And unfortunately, they never had the chance to do that. Somebody's going to come up and do one, because there's room in the market for a toy company, but not a toy warehouse. So that's my spiel.
Okay, so we got ToysRus out of the way.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. No, there's so much varied experience here from the client side, from the retailer side, that, again, just for transparency, you know, we want to be able to ask really good questions and you give really good, honest, authentic answers and not have to refer to a specific retailer from now on. So I think that will get some more discussion going. So today is really about 50% theory and 50% practicing, right? So these are the folks that have seen your sales pitches, that have heard your sales pitches, that have been on the client side and understand what they're accountable for and who they're accountable to on the retailer side. So I guess let's just ask the first question, which is, what do you think is retail's most pressing issue, and why is it a pressing issue? And we'll start with Chuck and go through that way.
I think the most pressing issue in retail right now is change and the need for it and how to get there. Innovation, disruption, all of those things fall under the category of change. Understanding the customer, that 4 foot and under, if it's a ToysRus or whomever, the female, the male, whatever it happens to be, understanding how to build the relationship from square one. And the companies that are doing it, take an Apple, they got a relationship that they've built over time. You walk through a shopping center, it's the busiest store in the mall, they greet you at the door. Your problem begins to be solved when you walk through the glass doorway or an open doorway. Nordstrom's is much like that. They engage with their customer. They begin a relationship at the minute they can make eye contact with the customer. And I guess what I've learned this morning by sitting here is that evolve or die, and evolve takes change. And those big warehouse stores that should have changed a long time ago didn't, because they didn't evolve fast enough. They didn't see it coming. And we're not there yet. And I just wrote a note to myself that we're not going to be there. We have to continue to evolve forever. We're talking right now, in this point in time, in 2018, about what the store should do, get smaller, blah, blah, blah. In 2020, we're going to be talking another language because technology is changing faster than we can keep up with it. And it's really, really cool and interesting to me to see this happen. So, my answer.
Mine is talent, and to me, there is an abundance of talent that is put into job situations that they do not know how to do. They're just given a job because they're moving up versus, are you connected to the customer? How are you going to grow? All of that. I've run into so many roadblocks in the diverse amount of companies that I've worked for, and I see a mistake every single time, and it's not as much a mistake as it is they don't know any better. And so to me, I've always believed in customer first, as Chuck is saying, but you have to connect to that customer. And so one of the companies that I worked for, which I respect completely, I'll say it's the Home Depot, and I became respectful to that company because they believe in the customer, but they also allow you, the talent, to get in front of that customer. So out of every, during the summer when it was their busiest time, every Thursday we had to work in a store. And I had to deal with what the customers were coming into the store with and the problems that they had and why they couldn't get something. And I learned as a creative leader, how could I change that one thought or shoot it differently that they would understand better? So that connection was huge to me, just like you said with the eye level, the 4 foot eye level of the store of ToysRus, and be able to engage in the product. you have to give your talent the reason or the ability to go out and be a part of the customer. Don't just take it from data, connect with them emotionally and listen to them and work it out with them. That's huge to me. And then when you're in the overall umbrella of the company, encourage them to grow, but in the right path, and not just give them a job digitally or creatively or through human resources they have to achieve a job placement. That's not a reason to put them in a position that they could fail at. And I saw so much of this, and I feel that hurts the brand tremendously.
I think it's a combination of it all. I think the hardest part right now, being a retailer, is you have all of these options of creative, technical, how are we going to engage the customer. But what I think retailers forget is they forget to stay true to their focus of why they even started their business. So what we've got to be able to do is to be pivotal, creative, take that innovation that's available to us, and then mold it and stay true to who we are.
That's great. It was so funny because the things that you all said were very human focused, right? Relationships with customers, talent, and purpose. And it's interesting because technology does exist, Stefan I think mentioned this, to scale the human experience. And technology exists to solve some of these problems. You know, clienteling, computer, you know, digital training, on-demand training, the ability for, you know, the design of the store to impart purpose. There's really some really interesting things that technology can be leveraged to solve these things. But again, from a retailer's perspective, they're not saying, I need this tech. They're saying, I want to solve a real human issue, and tech may be one of those things to do it. So let's talk about innovation. So what exactly, how would you describe innovation? And we'll start with you, Becky. So, you know, innovation's a hot word. It's like omni-channel, right? Everybody's talking about omni-channel, but everybody's talking about innovation. I think, you know, a lot of people have different opinions of what innovation is. And so just talk a little bit about what your perspective of innovation is.
Sure. I think you go to what is the definition, or what is innovation? Because we can get so caught up into what we're doing, we forget what it's all about. It's a new product, a new process, a new way to do things, a new way to approach. So it's you innovate who you are. So like with Mizuno, when they hired me, one of the reasons they hired me was because I knew sporting goods, but I knew how to innovate the experience because I'd done it for 18 years. So I think what's important for us as the retailers is for us to truly take what's great in the innovation realm and figure out how we're going to reach that customer, how we're going to make our product that much easier to purchase, that much easier that they enjoy purchasing, and that they walk out of the store and go, oh my goodness, that was a great experience. And now, you know, whether they bought it from me today, all I want them to do is to think Mizuno. I want them to think my brand. I want them to think my product, so that I build that relationship and use that innovation that they came to us for, because the whole innovation of the Mizuno store was to branch out and show people what the Mizuno brand was about, because Mizuno is a premium product, but people really didn't know about it. So we've created this atmosphere through innovation to be able to connect to the customer and to teach them.
Ronnie?
My aspect of innovation is knowing your brand purpose and stepping over the red line within your brand purpose. A lot of people are scared to step over that red line, and it encourages the question, why? And the brand purpose should answer why, but you can have all the technology in the world and all the apps in the world and all, but it's not learning, it's just ordering or solving an already existing answer or question. So to me is, how can you encourage within the brand purpose that red line to step over, and then what is that plan of vision and innovation that your team can enable once a year, twice a year, or quarterly, however you do it, learn from that growth and learn the reaction of the customer from that growth?
Same question. I don't know how many times I've heard the word innovation over the years that I've been in the retail business. We're going to innovate. We're going to innovate. We're going to innovate. I think if I boil it all down, it's courage to be creative. It's the courage to make a mistake. It's the courage to take the risk. And one of the things that's happening right now, and there's a lot of reasons, but one would be like a lot of the big companies are PE-run people. They're PE-run companies. They've put a person in the top position that thinks with the left side of their brain. And in order to be innovative, you have to be able to pull the right and left together. And you work with these people. I mean, companies are full of right and left brainers. Put them all in one place and they'll come up with an innovative idea. But they don't give them the opportunity to do that. So it's kind of like the science and the art. It isn't science versus the art. It's science with the art. The science and the big data can be brought to life through creative energy. And the fear of making a mistake, that's the thing that needs to be cured in American retail. If you blow it, you're out. And that's not the answer. It's okay to blow it. Remember, what was it? Thomas Edison made 175 light bulbs before one lit up. I mean, come on. And we forgot that. And I think it's time for retailers to start paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important point. You know, I think we're gonna go actually to KPIs next, because it really focuses right on what you all just said. I mean, you talked about going out of your comfort zone, having the courage. There's fear involved. You know, these are public companies with quarterly results and analysts that demand results and stockholders that demand results. So, you know, at HighStreet, I know we've been really focusing on measuring some of the soft stuff, because when you get the left brainers on the board of directors, they're going to want to see one number. They're going to want to see, did it make us more money? Did it sell more stuff to more people more often? And if you can't answer that, chances are the investment's not going to come. So other than sales per square foot, which has been obviously the traditional primary key performance indicator in retail, what other KPIs are you looking at? What other KPIs do you think are important when it comes to measuring the performance of a store? And let's start with Becky on this one.
You know, the brand awareness store for Mizuno, that was really to present the brand, as I told you, and it's evolving, as you so wisely said, Ed. You know, the store's open, and I'm like, okay, this is the coolest project because we're not the typical retail, and we don't have to worry about everybody buying something when they walk out the door. But as we've been open, and the daily expenses, the monthly expenses, you kind of get that pressure of creating those KPIs and making sure we show that the reason we're there to the board. So what we're working on is that balance. So that balance, you know, the conversion, I think that's my biggest one right now. Outside of teaching them about the brand, because Mizuno's a sleeper brand. It doesn't roll off the tongue like Nike and Adidas and Under Armour, right? So what we want them to do is to understand through this experience the premium quality. We're scoring an A+ on that. I can honestly say that we're doing that. So what my next thing would be on the conversion is the people coming in on game day, and how many people can I convert in that quick turn that they're walking through all the different stores. So that's been a really fun thing for me to watch. So on game days, I sell $50 and under. How many of those can I capture of those people coming through? And that's how I know I'm getting better, is when that number goes up. And then on non-game days, that same KPI is different, because I see my dollars go up, but the number of people I convert a little lower because I naturally have fewer people in the store. So I would think my number one conversion KPI, it would be the conversion rate. And then I'm learning more about my customer at the same time, but still staying true to wanting to teach people about the brand.
Yeah. Ronnie?
Mine is going to be more ethereal. It's like when back to the left brain, right brain is I want the conversion also, but I also want to hear about all of it. Being in an omni-channel experience where I'm dealing with .com, I'm dealing with all the different social aspects of the company in the creative umbrella. That's the part where I have to hit all of it and hit home runs and listen back from the customer. How did it appeal to you? Did we connect? What will get you in the store the third time? Like Neil said, it's creating that pattern back to the store and not even knowing why you went into the store, but you were served enough content to bring you back and go, oh wow, it's convenient because I am looking for this at this time. There was a point in time where women were very intimidated to go into a Home Depot store. And we started reacting to that and bringing style and trend into the look and feel of our visuals, like color versus walking into a store that smelled like sawdust, that had construction workers in there all day long, and it was made of concrete and lumber. And so it's like, well, do you want to do a garden? And so we invented something called a salsa garden. And what we realized was we developed this one story about a salsa garden. It was something that she could relate to and talk about, write about, and she could actually make something from it. So we invented a little piece of content that was soft enough to touch her and get her interested and then go and buy the products that she wanted in the store, versus walking in with one item and going, I don't even know what aisle to go down to find this one thing that I need to do. So I love the overall umbrella. The KPIs, I like to be fed that, because when you ask me to go to the analytical side, I kind of get in this haze of, okay, I've got to switch to that other side of non-creative and then come back to creative and solve. So in the talent, back to the talent, I always say try to get your creative to understand the KPI, but not get buried in it. And keep the creative fresh and keep the emotional connection to the customer there.
I remember sitting, I can remember sitting in lots of meetings where the marketing teams would bring in the data that would support the KPIs. And I like just go, holy crap, I don't know what you're, could the stack be bigger? Could you at least bring the cream to the top so I know what I'm going to go out and try to get my team to do over the next couple of months? There's so much information that's scary, and the way that we collect it, it's like hits on your website. We had 1 million hits last night. Whatever that happens to be, that's really good. How much did you get in sales? Well, we made, $200,000. Well, what should you have made? I mean, all those measurement devices that are out there from the e-com site are really good, but when you get into the brick and mortar, there's some other reasons that people do what they do. I mean, I think the retailer's responsibility is to inspire the customer to aspire to buy your stuff. And I learned this, one of the first things I ever learned from a mentor I had when I used to have to dress mannequins all the time, which I love doing, is don't dress the mannequin to look like the customer. Dress the mannequin so the customer will want to look like the mannequin. That's just a total reversal of logic, but when you teach people to think that way that are creative, everything starts changing. The results of their creative efforts become lusher. And I think it gets the customer more excited about the brand experience and walking in the store and being able to aspire to be, you're inspiring them to aspire, but they may not know that's happening because it's very subliminal. Mannequin dressing is very subliminal, but there's a reason that one of the biggest probably pats on the back a visual person in retail can have is to come in on Monday morning and see that half the mannequins are stripped down because they sold the merchandise over the weekend. Well, they didn't sell it by accident. It's not a fixture, it's a mannequin. It's telling a story, and it's providing a solution for the customer, and that's really what it's all about.
That's pretty cool. In fact, if you go to Macy's Men, you'll see a mannequin that looks like this. Just kidding. So this is the Digital Signage Expo, so let's talk about digital here for a second. What is the role of digital? You know, there's augmented reality, there's virtual reality, there's beacons, there's mobile interactions, there's touch screens, there's projectors. I mean, you just go on and on and on. There's so many digital solutions, and I think somebody mentioned this earlier, like what do you do? Because there's so many digital things. And I know, Becky, you've got quite a bit of digital in that store.
We have digital.
And yeah, that store's like humming. There's so much electricity going through it. It's really, really good. Would love to know, like, what is the role of digital in retail as we move forward? Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, so you all have to take a trip to the Mizuno Experience Center and come see the Atlanta Braves, and I'll walk you through. But it is, we wanted to engage the customer immediately and make our brand relevant. Mizuno, you know, is over 110 years old. It's from Japan. It has a strong history. But as I said, the local community did not truly know all that we do. So when we walk in the store, we have a big blue wall, and it talks about the history of our logo, and it's very subtle. But we also have simulation. We have a golf simulator that we engage our customers in to do custom fitting of golf clubs and then let them hit in 60 different golf courses across the country. So we get them excited about our brand, and we get them into playing golf and using their imagination that they're playing there. We go around the store, and we have digital technology from Perch Interactive, and we have the merchandising, so it's very interactive, you know, relevant, engaging. We have touch screens in our baseball area that you can actually custom build a glove, very colorful and interactive so that it engages that customer. Once again, we have a baseball simulator where we teach the customer about our baseball bats, and then we can put them in the right bat to enhance their game. We have a 9-screen, huge digital presence that teaches people about our ambassadors. We can then flip it and then do presentations. And then in our running simulator, we also teach them about our run products, where we can bring to life through gait analysis and then engaging them and wanting them to buy the right product. You know, we're talking about, this is a customer and our consumers, they work hard for their money. We want to make sure we get them the right product so that they want to come back, that they want to buy that same product. So as far as digital, to answer that kind of gives you a visual of what we've tried to do in the store. Once again, I think it's very important to bring into relative what is available and engages the customer, but not to overstimulate, because the store is not filled with a ton of product. So we got the digital. We have incredibly strong salespeople, but they are not overselling. They're educating, and they're making the experience a fun experience. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Mine is relevant to the brand and the brand purpose. So, for instance, when you walk into a Home Depot, we were careful at the time how much digital our customer would understand when you walked into a Home Depot store. I was part of the team that built the appliance kiosk in the appliance section of the Home Depot store, and we rolled it out to 200 stores first off. The goal was to expand the floor space of the appliances section so that we didn't have to invest in all of the amount of appliances that were available at Home Depot, that we could show the primos in the store that you could touch and feel, and then do an endless aisle in the kiosk. And we made it so that the digital was interactive to where they were almost life-sized because the kiosk was huge. And it took that because they're so used to being able, the customer's so used to coming in and touching and feeling and opening the doors of the refrigerators. So we kept it within the brand. And then we went on to more home, like paint and flooring and how do you build a room and et cetera, into the interior design part of it, but we kept it within the brand purpose. And I think that's big and a huge importance to not lose your customer in what's available digitally and ease them into the right choice, knowing your customer, for what you're going to launch in your store. Because they'll walk right by it if they're not interested. It's just like a kid in a toy store. You can design the most beautiful, T-Rex, and they might not even touch it. And you don't know why until it was either too big or too scary or whatever. And that's where it's getting to know your customer and staying within your brand purpose.
It's hard to get your mind wrapped, or at least me, I shouldn't speak for you guys, but wrap my mind about what's happening with digital and the speed at which it's coming at us. I started realizing right as I got to OfficeMax, I was starting to be, this would have been in 2007, I was being deluged by technology companies, vendors coming to me, trying to sell me an on-shelf product, monitors, whatever it happened to be. Well, the first issue I always had is we have no electricity in the store. It might be in the walls, but it isn't on the gondolas. So that's about a $5,000 per line cost right there. So how can you fix it? Well, we got battery operated. Okay, so we have an operating model in our company where we don't like paying people to do anything. So we're going to now pay a $12 an hour or a $10 to $12 hour employee to change batteries every morning? I think not. So we got to come up with a better plan. Things have evolved over time. Digital monitors have been brought in. There's a cost to it. They pay off. There's a lot of good things that happen. But now I talk to my potential clients based on this background and kind of developing this own point of view of my own, is the waters get very muddy when you layer digital on top of static and you don't take something away. And the digital loses its effect and importance when there's a lot of static signing in the customer's journey. From the time they come in the store to the time they leave, in a lot of retailers, it's a reading lesson. And it shouldn't be that. There has to be relief space. And if there's more relief space, digital can be put there, aisle intersections, places that are going to draw people to that solution that's happening there. And it takes I don't think it takes a trained eye, but I mean, I volunteer for that work. You walk a store and look at the store the way the customer sees it, and you go, you need to edit the eyeballs here, guys, because it's not a fun experience for them, because they can't aspire because you're not inspiring, but they can't see the forest for the trees, and we need to fix that. And the retailers that do have a very simple plan, I think we saw that this morning in some of the slides. Office Depot, very nice, not a lot of signage. There's digital in there. Easy to understand what's happening in the architecture that's there. Layer in your old signing like we used to do at OfficeMax when we were trying to get rid of that stuff, and it's a totally different looking architecture. So the challenge is in editing, I think, right now.
So let's talk about the Amazonian effect. We talk about Amazon taking over the world. There's a lot of, they're in the news every day, literally every day. They're doing something, announcing something, acquiring somebody. So what is it about the Amazonian effect that's going to continue to impact retail? Are they going to take over the world? Are they going to take over retail? Is there space for brick and mortar? How far is Amazon going to go, and how serious is it? And do you think retailers are taking it seriously? Chuck, we'll start with you.
In my entire life of retail, and I'm passionate about everything that happens there, but I think the most amusing thing that you hear is our business was crappy last weekend because of the weather. Our business was crappy last month because of the weather. Our business was crappy last quarter because of the weather. Now it's our business is crappy because of Amazon. It's like the jungle gorilla just came out of the woods, out of the jungle, and is scaring the hell out of everybody. But the reality is, it's a reality. They have the most innovative thing Amazon has ever done, is they brought shipping and delivery from like anywhere between, say, 2 weeks and 2 months to 2 days to 1 day to 2 hours. I mean, that's an innovative move. And it's forced every retailer in America to react to it. So we all win as customers because we're going to get what we want a lot sooner. At what cost? I don't know. I mean, that hits everybody's bottom line when you're delivering like that. But it's that Amazon effect. The first thing I saw was the delivery. Now, you know, it's like these third-party, when you buy things on Amazon, you never know where it's coming from, but it doesn't really matter because you just want it to deliver in your home the next day when you're doing it on Prime. That's the only thing that's important. It's just an interesting change, but I don't think it's something that retailers should make excuses about and apologize for and be afraid of. I think they just have to just learn from it. Amazon's a good teacher. If you fear it, you're never going to learn. You're just going to look at it as this big gorilla that's coming out of the woods, or that tiger that we saw laying in the back there. They're always going to be there for at least for the unforeseeable future. They're a reality.
I love what you just said because I love a challenge, and they challenge you to do better. Every company should learn from them and grow in their own way in what they're capable of doing. They might not be able to do it in the volume and the size that Amazon is, but it makes us better and it makes us work harder. And every time, you're only as good as the last person touching it, to me is, wow, what can we do different that touches them better? And I bet you Amazon might not have thought of that because they don't know my brand purpose and they don't know why, or the heritage that we started in, and that loyalty that is in that company's brand. For instance, you know, with JCPenney or Eddie Bauer or even Mrs. Fields Cookies, where I worked for 5 years, she didn't sell one cookie until she walked outside with a tray and handed them out free. And then they tasted it, emotionally connected to it, and came back in and bought the hell out of cookies. So, and then I got my job to design gifts with cookies and then learn how to freeze dry it and get it there so it defrosts at the right time so it tastes like the store cookie. So all of that challenged me to be a better creative and a better, I guess, person at managing that. And how do we accomplish from not necessarily failure as it is, you know, a growing step in our world. So I love that.
I don't think brick and mortar is going away. I think we're evolving. We've got to change. I do think we're going to go to smaller footprints and then bring in all the innovation. I think Amazon's been awesome. I totally agree with Chuck and Jerry here that it has forced us to be better. And that's nothing but a competitive thing that we all need to respond to, not react to. Respond to means that you've thought it through and you stay focused to your brand. So I think Amazon's been awesome, but I don't think we need to react to them. I think we need to respond to them. And I think we need to just build on what they've shown us a new way to do and then make it even better for your brand.
It's almost a bit embarrassing on behalf of retail that Amazon, an online bookstore from the late 90s, is now showing retailers who've been around for almost, hundreds of years in some cases, how to do brick and mortar. It's a bit embarrassing if you really think about it. Yeah. It's like, how did you not figure this out on your own? It took somebody like a pure play like Amazon. If you look at other pure plays like Warby Parker and Bonobos, who started pure play online only, are now opening brick and mortar, and a lot of them. So you're right, it's not going away. There's plenty of brick and mortar opportunity, but you have to do it differently, and it's shaking that dogma of years. And So speaking of dogma, we're gonna, this will be the last question, then I'll open it up to the audience. But what is, as far as leadership goes, what are the challenges that we have to overcome in leadership to move retail in the right direction? And I'll just open it up, and whoever wants to open can open.
I'll take it. I'm a firm believer in talent, and I believe that leadership needs to hire people that are better than them and not be scared that they're going to overdo, that person's going to take their job. They have to be intelligent enough that they've hired the best of the best and that they can complement them and be a part of their team versus, I am this, you need to do it this way. And I've seen it through the big boxes that I've worked for, and I find it negative. And when you're dealing with creative, it's very hard to manage up and then get managed down. And so to me, if leadership humbled themselves and trusted themselves in who they hired and why, and that person has the knowledge and ability to make this company grow and touch the customer, then high five them. Amen
to that. I've had both experiences. The gentleman who hired me from Mizuno, who happens to not be here anymore, but he hired me because he knew I knew what I needed to get done. He was collaborative, supportive. He gave me what I needed, and he said, go do it. So that's what retail needs. That's the leadership we need. If we're going to be able to revamp and stay ahead and make the brick and mortar that incredible experience, you need the leadership to say, what do you need? How can I help you make it happen? And keep that customer focus. So if you've got that leader, you can make it happen.
Ditto. Ditto, ditto. It's almost like it seems like it's such an easy answer. A person with a vision is going to be able to lead a company who people will follow that vision. And if they don't follow the vision, they're going to leave. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But if they have a vision that people are excited and passionate about, they'll follow it. And it just seems so easy, but that vision can't be to please Wall Street. That's just a result of business. Mm-hmm. It's not the result of a customer interaction or relationship that you've built. They have to please Wall Street. That's part of their job. But that's their job. It's not my job. My job is to help you enforce and execute on your vision. And that's the fun part about being in those positions right now, where you can help a company do that in a company that allows you to do it and builds a culture of risk-taking and the lack of fear of failure. That's really where it's at.
Fantastic. Great panel. Let's open it up for questions for a few minutes. And we have 3 sages on stage, so now's your time.
We need to clarify that sage thing. I saw something on LinkedIn the other day. Somebody wrote, I'm 23 years old with 30 years of experience. I thought that was like the best thing I had ever read.
All right. Well, first of all, Brandon Gabriel for the Imagine family of companies. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. The passion, the purpose, innovation. Curious from whoever wants to answer this, or if you all want to answer it collectively. Innovation. How do we activate it inside our cultures? Do we have any tools? Do we have any funnels? What's the best way to activate innovation in your businesses, or things you've seen in your careers? What's the best way to get that fire burning?
If I understand the question correctly, how do we get the innovation going? I think it definitely starts with hiring the right talent and then having that right vision, that leader that lets you execute that vision. But also, I think you have to know your brand, you have to know your consumer, and then you got to pick that right innovation. And then you got to get everybody on board, because the last thing you want to do is to have that one leader and you out there trying to push that through. So then you got to pull everybody on the same boat, that you're rowing in the same direction. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's critical in any business, and I think it gets dropped a lot. Here's the idea. You go make it happen, and then everybody else goes and does whatever they need to do. When companies really need to stay focused and brand central, and that means everybody.
I believe, once again, and back to my talent thing, totally agree with that. But I do take it baby steps. I have always had that innovative mind in what's available to me, but it has to work with the team and the brand purpose. So if everything that your company is based on, your brand purpose answers why you're in business, why you're buying this, why you're developing content, all of that feeds the purpose. That purpose is going to tell you how much innovation is worthy of the brand, and not to scare the customer, because you can overboard it, and it's not a light switch that you turn on. It's an evolution that we've talked this whole day about. And take it in baby steps, and understand that that leader cannot just turn a light switch on and say, we're innovative now, we're going to do this. It's about, what's our plan to help with evolution of the innovation of this company? And there is a way to do it if you do it in small steps and introduce it and learn from it as you go. Key. And then connect to the customer on the innovation. Go stand in front of them while you're doing the golf show and watch their reaction and see how it works. And that's where I feel it's not a switch. Don't think it's a switch. It sounds like it's going to be a switch, but it's not. It's an evolution.
My answer would be, it's not owned by one person in any company. And if you can involve a cross-section of the folks that work there. I've learned it maybe the hard way. When I was younger, I guess maybe I was a millennial once. And they're kind of getting beat down a bit for whatever reasons, which I never agreed to. But I was a millennial once. And when I started managing millennials, I realized these people got great ideas. You know, it's like any kid coming out of college. You know, okay, so I didn't come out of college yesterday. I've been a manager, you know, like this is years ago, but I've been a manager of people for, say, 5 or 6 years. I don't know more than that kid coming out of college. They got bright ideas, and you need to draw off of that. Sometimes they're just out-of-the-box stuff. You're going to go, wow, that's really weird. But we could probably take part of that and use it. You know, the 7 most dangerous words are that's not the way we've done it before. And those words defeat innovation. Every time you sit at the table with a group of people and they talk about, let's be innovative. Okay, I'll turn on my switch. First off, you can't turn on the switch. You said it. And it doesn't happen that way. You know, it's like a process and an evolution within a group. But you got to allow the group to have a voice. And then you have to have courage of your convictions. Once you come up with that voice, you have to try it. And if I left one message here today, one of the biggest problems in retail is they get a new prototype set up, and they don't have the courage of their convictions, and within 2 years it's gone. For a lot of reasons. You know, maybe it didn't do the right, but most of the time they're not tested long enough. If they don't see instant results in the first quarter, they start pulling the plug. They stop funding it. That's just wrong. Because a lot of people went to a lot of work to get to the point. So give it the testing ground they really need. And understand that at the innovation end. When you start the innovation, decide how long you're going to go with this. You know, the process and the results. And then decide how long you want to go with results before you pass judgment on pulling a plug on it.
Great advice. Is there another question?
Yeah, this question's for Becky. I take it the Mizuno experience in Atlanta is baseball-centric for the most part?
Well, no.
It's not.
It isn't. Mizuno does golf, baseball, volleyball, and running. So even though we're in a baseball arena, and on baseball days, we do sell more baseball, but it clearly has become a brand central for Mizuno, because a lot of our customers who love baseball play golf. You can sit through 2.5 hours of a baseball game. You can play 18 holes of golf. So it's such a wonderful synergy. And then we've found that people who are walking through the SunTrust Stadium don't have comfortable shoes. So, hello, I'll sell you a pair of shoes, but we teach them about what the right shoe is to wear. So I think I thought it was a brilliant idea on Mizuno's end to open up their first ever experience center at a baseball field, because we have all walks of life coming through there. So we're able to sell a lot of our product and engage them in our brand.
Are there any plans to take that experience and the learnings and focus on, let's say, golf in a specific venue?
Well, I haven't heard that yet. Typical, as I said, you know, Mizuno, they need to get on board and know that the light switch doesn't go off and immediately I've got recouped all that money that, you know, I spent to build it in a very short amount of time. But I would hope that we could. My goal when I joined Mizuno was to open these up in other baseball arenas or sports arenas, but that has not been clarified yet.
All right, we have time for one more if anybody has a burning question. No? Okay, so I'd like to thank our panelists.
Nice done.